Hi, I'm Sean McGowan for Acoustic Guitar. In this lesson, we're going to work through the arrangement of Over the River and Through the Woods. This song was originally composed for Thanksgiving, but has now found its way into the Christmas standard repertoire. This song is in 6/8 time, which means there's 2 beats per bar, and each beat has 3 equal eighth notes. So to that effect, there's this sort of rolling feel, and there's a lot of triplets in the melody. So to support the triplets in the melody, we're just going to be basically playing a lot of dotted eighth notes, which equals 3 or 1 beat in the bass. So we'll start out with just a lot of those bass notes can just be done with the thumb, while the index, middle, and ring fingers take care of the chords and also the melody. So there's a short intro in this, and you can interpret that loosely, but it's essentially setting up the time with that first triplet and the very first beat of the song. So that establishes the feel of the song, and then of course everybody knows the verse, over the river and through the woods. So the tricky part at first is to play the chords with a claw technique, just sort of like grabbing at those notes, and then following up the chord with the single note melody, which is most often in triplets. So basically, for example, in the first chord, you have an F chord. Now notice how with my fretting hand, I'm barring the entire shape, because with my thumb, I'm going to, in the bass line, go back and forth between the F, the root, and the C, the fifth. And then the rest of the chord is right there in the bar shape. So the melody is also being supported at times by the triad, so we have something like this. So with the fretting hand, it's easier just to keep that shape intact the whole time and use the picking hand, to distinguish between the melody and the bass line and the chords. The one exception to that is at the last part of the first measure. You have to just simply use your pinky to grab that B flat. So again, the melody is, and I'm right into it, and back into the chord form for a couple of reasons. One, it makes it much easier to facilitate the moves in the melody and in the bass. But two, if I accidentally hit a string that I don't want to with my picking hand, the fretting hand is fretting all of the notes, so instead of hitting an open string by accident, I'll just hit an F, which will sound fine in the context of the chord. So this song is essentially in 3 overall parts. The song is rather short, so I've decided to arrange it moving through 3 different keys. It starts in the key of F major, and then there's a first and second ending to that, and each first and second ending is just sort of a little interlude to get you back into it. The first ending, the first part, we'll just call that the A section. The first ending is just kind of moving through some nice open triads and still keep that flowing time feel, and that's best executed with just 6/8 figures. So. And so on. The second ending brings us to a G7 chord, which sets up the new key of C major for the second B section. So then we move through the same melody. This time, it's a little bit more complex in terms of the chords moving underneath the melody. So we still have that same melodic fragment, this time in the key of C. So this time there's some chords moving under the melody for each beat. So we have a C. So, you could just practice that as an exercise. Before you even try the melody, you could just go from a C form to a G form to an A minor 7, back to G, and just have that be sort of a preparatory exercise. Then you put the melody on top. And in most cases, I'm alternating between the index and middle and the index and ring finger. Try both and see what works for you. But that's essentially what's happening. It's like you grab the chord, and then you immediately go into the single note melody line with either index middle or index ring finger. So we have, and notice with a 5-note chord, for the very first chord, that C major, since it's a 5-note chord, you will be using your thumb and all 4 fingers. So with the with the picking hand, it's a quick grab, and then move right up with the index and middle to grab those subsequent Gs there. Sorry. Then we move quickly up the neck to grab this F6 chord. And each subsequent section also has different harmonizations of some of the melody there. So in this case, we have a passing diminished chord, which is nice, setting us up for the following D minor 7 and so forth. So the B section is also played twice. It has a first and a second ending, or as notated, a third and a fourth ending. Then finally, it slows down. We have a retard before moving to the third and final key of G major, and we'll call that the C section. And essentially what we're doing is just bringing the song out in the new key of G, and like the B section, each beat of the melody is supported by a new chord. So in the key of G, we're just moving down the scale. D over F sharp, E minor, to sort of a D11, it's kind of a nice sus, but with a third chord, third in the chord. Then right down the scale, continuing to C, to G over B. And in some cases, you may want to use your fretting hand thumb over the neck to grab that. And basically what I'm doing is grabbing the bass note with my thumb so it won't interrupt the melody. So you have this A minor 7. And that's a lot easier than doing that. Because then we're switching right into a G chord. And the melody continues just one time through. And there's another retard at bar 65, which just sort of closes out the theme with a cadence starting on the 4 chord. So for those last two measures, we're just ending the melodic figure with an open E string, setting us up to the high G and the B as a nice, sparse interpretation of the G chord over D. And in order to sustain the last part, we'll jump up to the 12th fret harmonics here for the G, D, and B strings. Pluck those, let them ring, and then hit the last D and G back in third position. So the trick here is just to try not to hit that D string harmonic while you grab the 5th fret D on the A string. So you may want to just try that very slowly at first. And you'll notice, so that I don't interrupt that D string harmonic, I'll really curve my fretting hand finger so that I can fret that D on the 5th fret A string without hitting that D string. So it should just be allowed to let ring here. And then the final G on the 3rd fret low E. Now here's Over the River and Through the Woods. And that was Over the River and Through the Woods. For Acoustic Guitar, I'm Sean McGowan.